Hello again. Welcome to this series of podcasts concerning spousal maintenance. This module, including these podcasts, should be read in conjunction with Chapter 15 of the text Family Law Principles. I strongly recommend that chapter to you. This first podcast will introduce you to the study of spousal maintenance and some materials about the economic consequences of separation and divorce, particularly focused on income. The second podcast will look at the requirements for an award of spousal maintenance. Before we discuss spousal maintenance, we should define it. There is actually no specific definition of the term spousal maintenance in the Act. However, spousal maintenance generally refers to an order for payment of a weekly, monthly, yearly, or other periodic sum by one spouse to another for the support of that spouse, not for the support of the children. In the second podcast, we'll work through the law in some detail, but we'll use this as a working definition. For reasons that will become apparent later in the module, a court can consider, as background reading, through which to construe evidence, empirical studies on post-separation income disparity. Accordingly, it is appropriate for us to consider some of that material. The classic study often cited on spousal maintenance is A Study of Incidents and Attitudes by Juliet Behrens and Bruce Smythe, working paper number 16 from 1999 from the Australian Institute of Family Studies. Those authors, at page 20 of that document, concluded, "Our data suggests that periodic spousal support continues to be rare, minimal and brief. Over the last decade, it appears to have occurred in less than 7% of divorces, typically lasts for about 2 years, and averages about $128 per week, or $6,640 per annum. There is, nonetheless, considerable variability among individual payers and receivers. 1 in 10 respondents reported a property transfer of spousal support, though men were twice as likely as women to report that this form of spousal support had occurred. While the vast majority of payers were male and the vast majority of receivers female, both shared at least 2 characteristics. They used formal legal processes to settle property matters, for example, they went to court, and had been in relatively long marriages of at least 10 years duration. Whereas receivers appeared to be characterized by economic need, payers did not in the main appear to be high flyers in terms of their current earnings. For some payers, values and attitudes might partly drive support." So, on this material, despite spousal maintenance being part of the Act since its inception, it does not appear to be an often used remedy. Belinda Fehlberg, in her very detailed 2004 critique of spousal maintenance in Australia in the International Journal of Law, Policy and the Family, says at page 28 that despite some encouraging case law, there seemed to be no indication that applications for spousal maintenance at that time had increased and still remained uncommon. Does it mean then that the absence of spousal maintenance claims or orders mean that there is little, if any, income disparity between spouses remaining after separation? There is some more recent research, and it seems to suggest that disparity in income remains for some time after separation. One example is the report by David DeVoe, Matthew Gray, Lixia Q and David Stanton, The Economic Consequences of Divorce in 6 OECD countries. Also from the Australian Institute of Family Studies, research report number 31, 2015. Just extracting from that report information about Australia, the research concluded, at page 10, that over the medium term in Australia, men's post-divorce equivalised household incomes were similar to what they would have been had those men remained married. They further concluded that in Australia, divorce had only a very small effect upon men's incomes, although there was a moderate short-run fall in Australia that was quickly recovered. In contrast, and see page 11 of that report, Women experienced a substantial fall in equivalised household incomes compared to their pre-divorce incomes. The falls in income compared to pre-divorce incomes was in Australia 21%. At page 13 of that report, the researchers noted that the proportion of women's incomes derived from government payments peaked at 34% at 2 years following divorce and declined to 25% 6 years after divorce. This decline was due to the increase in the contribution of women's own incomes to their household income and the relatively high rates of repartnering, which resulted in partners' income becoming an important contributor to post-divorce incomes 6 years after divorce, which was 18% of household incomes. In short, it seems that while income disparities between men and women remain post-separation, spousal maintenance is still not being used as a remedy to its full extent. Thanks for listening to this introductory podcast about the social and economic context of spousal maintenance. Next, I will deal with the requirements for the making of a spousal maintenance order, variation of spousal maintenance orders, and interim spousal maintenance orders.